Legend begins here with another episode of Game Legend. I handpicked this creepypasta, and I hope you enjoy it. I'll be reading it word for word since it's fairly short. I remember when I was human, a human with friends, Pokemon, a family, and a wonderful life. I adored my hometown as well. Unova is such a beautiful region, and I was never out of it once. I know I should have gone out to see the world, but I didn't. The region was, and is, too beautiful. Even as the thing I am now, I still only live here. When I was human and young, I remember asking my mother as a toddler, "Mommy, what would it be like to be a Pokemon?" She had no answer for me. But this made sense. She was not a Pokemon, nor had she ever been one. But the thought still boggled my mind during my youth. What does it feel like to be caught in a Pokeball? What is it like to befriend something that isn't your species? What would it be like to use flamethrower or water gun? So many questions. I was curious about Pokemon altogether. Soon, I had as much interaction with these creatures. I turned 10. Professor Juniper allowed me to choose my first Pokemon, and I set out on an enormous adventure. The Pokemon I caught, they became my closest friends and my companions. I was intrigued by the attacks that they used, and still wondered how they used them. My Pokemon and I traveled all over the region, meeting new people, seeing new places. It was the happiest time of my life. I made some human friends during my lifetime as well, and they proved to be as loyal as my Pokemon were. I, along with my friends in Pokemon, eventually grew up, but we kept traveling together. Unfortunately, I was unable to stay with my friends for very long, because they wished to travel to other regions other than Unova. They let me stay behind, even though they were confused as to why I didn't follow them. But no matter, they're probably all dead now, anyway. I remained with my Pokemon for the rest of my life. I love them, and they love me, staying by my side when I found that one day that my mother had died. Even though I was in mourning, I was able to push on. Soon after, it started following me. I figured that it was a Pokemon, but I wasn't sure. I never saw it before. It was a black Pokemon, one with gigantic red eyes, 2 arms, and no legs. On its tail of some sort, it carried some kind of expressionless mask. This thing had always followed me since my mother's death. It frightened me, especially since I had no idea what it was. Every time I saw its face, its red eyes always seemed so sad and heartbroken. I took considerable interest in that mask. It wept every time it looked at it, whenever it looked at me. I didn't talk to it, though it tried to speak to me, though half the time I couldn't understand anything. It spoke in broken English. Please, yeah, meh. It was obviously trying to tell me something, judging by how desperate its tone sounded. The fact that I couldn't get its message across to me seemed to make it even more sad. Eventually it stopped saying actual words entirely, and only said Yamask over and over again when it spoke to me. When I grew old, it still followed me, though it seemed less sad than it had for all those years. As it was inevitable, I soon passed away. With that thing hovering over my deathbed, it was the last thing I saw. I was buried right next to my mother's grave. My spirit rose out of the grave I was in. Or at least I thought I was the spirit. I saw that thing float over me. For the first time, I could understand it, even though it only said, Yamask, my son, welcome. That thing, it was my mother. That explained why it followed me. She was trying to make me aware of her presence, but because she was in that form, the form of a Pokemon, she couldn't. I said, Mother, what happened? Yamask. I was starting to lose my ability to speak English too. I stared at my reflection in the pond next to the graves. It looked just like my mother did. Black arms, no legs, and that mask. I recognized it to be my own face from when I was a normal human. Soon, I couldn't talk like a human anymore. I wasn't a human. I was a Yamask, a Pokemon I didn't even know existed. I was glad that my mother and the others could understand me, but it just wasn't the same. I couldn't explore like I used to anymore, nor could I catch Pokemon. I was a Pokemon. Now the others and I make our home in the Relic Castle, though we can't tell the explorers that visit here that we were once human, nor can we tell them they will meet the same fate when they die. But never mind. Now all I can do is stare at my own face and cry at the former life I lost. Wow. This is a great creepypasta. Better than Mario. Just because it, like, the details that they give, you can actually feel this person, or what would be a person. You feel sad when they do. It's just great. It really draws the reader in. I really recommend that you guys check out this creepypasta. Link will be in the description. I give it a 9 out of 10. It was great. I loved it. It wasn't that long, but it didn't need to be. It just wrapped up everything in a little package, like a tiny candy that bursts with flavor as soon as you eat it. It was great. And I just don't know what they could do to make it better. It just don't know if it's worthy of a 10, but it wasn't exactly that scary, but it was just, it felt so real. And it adds to the effect if you know Yamask's. Don't crucify me in the comments or anything if I'm pronouncing anything wrong. But his Pokedex entry, it actually talks that it was once a human, and that mask was its face. That's one of the things that make these creepypastas great. It just gives you real life, not real life, but things in the game that could actually be if it was real. I really appreciate what you guys watching. Tell me in the description what you would rate this creepypasta, and give me a creepypasta to do, and I'll try to get to all of them. I really appreciate it, and give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy what I do. And don't worry, it's just a legend, right? A game legend.